Now, billionaire tech mogul Elon Musk has launched a new political movement, the American Party, in a dramatic rupture with U.S. President Donald Trump. The announcement follows Musk's blistering criticism of Trump's newly signed tax and spending bill, which he labeled fiscally insane and the threat to national solvency. Musk, who previously served in Trump's cabinet as head of the Department of Government Efficiency, vowed to bankroll efforts to unseat lawmakers who supported the legislation. The move has sent tremors through both Washington and Wall Street. Tesla shares slid sharply amid fears Musk's political pivot could distract from business operations. Republican strategists warn the fallout could fracture the conservative base ahead of the 2026 midterm elections. Musk says the American Party will champion individual liberty, fiscal discipline, and political renewal. I have joining me now, Family Affairs, Dr. Marek Laskiewicz from London. He is an international affairs analyst. Good, happy weekend to you. Let's talk about the devastating, floods in Texas. That flood have taken lots and lots of lives. Could lives have been saved to avoid the deaths occurring from the flood?
Well, I think this is the key question, is it not? The key question now is how to prevent this disaster in future. And one of the points that has been raised is, has the cutting by Donald Trump of personnel gone too far in the sense of being A, able to predict such eventualities, and B, to warn people in time about them. And this is, I think, where any inquiry should focus on, because the problem is that unless something is done, then it will happen again. And we want to avoid that.
A lot of back and forth. There's a lot of people are suggesting or presuming there's going to be a lot of finger pointing, a lot of second guessing, and Monday morning quarterbacking. That's according to a U.S. rep. Now, according to reports, there were lots of the incoming floods. Something could have been done, Dr. Marek, to ensure that this is averted.
Yes, there are 2 points. They did know something was coming. It's the ability to warn people and to see if anything can be done to get them out of harm's way, which is the key. The finger pointing, which you mentioned, I think will be about the loss of personnel owing to Donald Trump trying to reduce the headcount, if you like, of the American administration. And the other aspect is, of course, about the climate. There will be another finger pointing that Donald Trump is doing too little to help the green side of industry. And by backing the oil and gas industry, he is therefore adding to the problems. So therefore, on both counts, I anticipate this where the finger pointing will go.
Now let's move to Elon Musk before we jump into the Israel-Gaza talks. After the fallout with President Donald Trump, Elon has the idea that a new party would save America. What do you think?
This is very interesting. Historically, based on no chance, because it has never worked. The Democrat-Republican duopoly, if you like, of politics has been total for decades. However, that doesn't mean to say a new party cannot succeed. For example, Reform UK here in Great Britain managed to do this because people got tired to some extent of the Conservative and Labours not addressing fundamental issues. And here's one of the key points. Is Elon Musk sufficiently politically aware, like Nigel Farage was, just where are these points which people are no longer want? The Republican and Democrat duopoly no longer feel they're up to it. The other point is that he has a great deal of money, and that has not happened before, that somebody who founds a new party has that sort of money, and also is business savvy. And that means that he could bring in the marketing ideas and advertising ideas from business. He's well aware of how to run that aspect. So I would say, although historically he would appear to have no chance, he does have a chance owing to his abilities, his money, and if there indeed is a subject which he can latch onto, like Reform UK did about immigration here in Great Britain.
So it's clear, Dr. Marek, without Elon, Trump might not have won the election. Besides funding his campaigns, especially with the social media influence he got from X, formerly known as Twitter. Is America, however, ready for another party? And do you see an influence from Musk on American politics?
I think there are three aspects to mention. First of all, he could actually break the level of Republican support by splitting it to some degree, which would allow the Democrats back. And that would certainly be an aspect of Musk influence you are asking about. Number two, a party is possible. The question is, does he have the issue that will grab the public? That is unclear. But three, just because it has never happened, there's no reason why it couldn't be. There is in America, in business, in technology, a constant stream of innovations. And yet, surprisingly, on the political scene, no change for decades. So I think there's a chance, I wouldn't put it a certainty, but certainly there's a chance that this time a third party could indeed succeed.
We can never say never, right? But do we foresee the friendship between Elon Musk and Trump come back? Do we see a comeback between the two? Republican, strategy is also one that the fallout could fracture the conservative base ahead of the 2026 midterm elections.
I think there's a good chance it would fracture this, the conservative base, the Republican base. And therefore, from this point of view, it may well be that Trump and the Republicans will try and woo Elon Musk back. It all depends at the end of the day what Trump is prepared to do to woo him back. And it seems most unlikely because his big, beautiful bill is precisely what Elon Musk is protesting about. And so therefore, I don't see any ability for a get-together by Elon and Donald for some time.
I'll draw your attention, Dr. Marek, to Trump's MAGA campaign promises where he said he was going to reduce the debt the U.S. is owing. But a lot of Americans are worried now, especially with the passing and the signing of the Big Beautiful budget or the Big Beautiful bill just a few days ago, that he's doing directly the opposite of what he had promised during the campaigns.
Well, the answer to that is yes and no. He's doing the opposite in the sense that, yes, as things stand, if nothing changes, then he will have added to the debt, which is precisely what he said he would not do. But this is to miss the dynamic aspect. Is he correct that by tax cutting, he will then stimulate the American economy, its entrepreneurship, its companies to investing more in America, coupled, of course, with his tariff policy, please don't forget that, of import substitution in effect. And this would therefore increase the amount of taxation that the American economy could deliver to the government, in which case the answer would be no, actually wouldn't add to the debt in the long run. The point is it true? And the answer is, we're going to find out because this bill is going ahead. It has to be said that the implications are, as far as one can see, that there will be an immediate increase in debt and any growth will be modest. But who can tell? Donald Trump is, after all, now going on a course of gambling, and who knows, it could succeed.
I'll bring your attention to two things that some Democrats have expressed fears concerning. Number one, about the health care and Medicaid that will be chopped off. A lot of people, according to experts, would die because of accessibility to some of the Medicaids. Number two is the issue of AI, artificial intelligence, being that it will replace some of the jobs out there. How impactful would these be based on the concerns being raised, in the public?
Well, the first one is indeed a prediction has been made. And as things stand, it is likely that if indeed the cutback goes ahead for the medical, that there will be some consequences. But the real question in politics is, will these consequences actually impact upon Donald Trump's electorate? And it does not appear likely as things stand, because if he delivers the jobs, then the people who are after want the jobs and get the jobs will be more than grateful. And number two, and what is important is AI, is that Donald Trump has this American side to him. Of course, he's an American, but I mean in the sense that he's innovation positive. He's not a technophobe. He does see AI going forward. And I think AI, although it may well replace jobs, will also add to productivity as in the past technical revolutions have done. And actually, this is one of those hidden aspects, which, if you remember, I was saying that Donald Trump's taking a gamble. This is one of these hidden aspects which could well help him. If AI really does boom, then that will create a completely different set of jobs. I don't think AI is going to replace all the workers. On the contrary, it will just add to their abilities.
Also bring your attention to the statistics being that the rich and the oligarchs, according to a lot of critics, they just represent 1% of the American population, and they handle 43% of the taxes that, the bill has been signed to. But how does that the balance? The equation is not, like we say, the equation is not really balanced, being that how can you cater to cutting taxes for 1% of the population when the other handles most of the taxes?
Yeah, there is this aspect, but then I have to underline again. There is a static aspect to the analysis which you've given now, that the rich immediately benefit and the US budget, of course, deficit increases. And there's a dynamic aspect. Will it create more investment? As a result, more jobs, and so the economy grows and more than makes up for any losses or tax deficit, if you like, that is currently is implicated by the static analysis. And the answer to this is we simply don't know, but it is not impossible. Companies, countries do grow if they have the money to invest. So strategy, on the static sense, certainly adds to the rich's wealth, but in the dynamic sense, may well create the new jobs that he is after.
All right, then let's move to the ceasefire talks in Gaza. Israel has continued with the bombardments despite negotiations in Qatar, but the negotiations face challenges as Hamas has reportedly proposed amendments to the US-backed ceasefire proposal, which Israel has deemed unacceptable. What's your analysis of this?
Yeah, the point about it is that you have obviously two diametrically opposed camps, like in Russia and Ukraine, and it's very hard to find any common ground between them. However, the good news is they're talking. The good news is some sort of proposals have been accepted. That Hamas is making other proposals is per se by no means a bad thing, any more than it's a bad thing for Israel to make proposals. What is important is that eventually some sort of deal is hammered out. And it would appear to be on the cards, thanks, of course, to the mediation of Qatar and indeed to Donald Trump in this respect. And at least a ceasefire appears to be on the cards. Where there is a profound difference is what happens after the ceasefire, because Israel has committed the destruction of Hamas, and technically Hamas is committed to the destruction of Israel. And so therefore we have here a very deep divide. But even a 60-day ceasefire with humanitarian aid arriving to the Gazans would be a very, very good thing. And therefore, we hope that at least it will get that far. And it would appear the ceasefire is on the cards, but it certainly will not automatically lead to a long-term truce or treaty.
Now, another thing that I would like to draw your attention to, Dr. Marek, is the fact that Netanyahu is the middleman here, and he's facing growing domestic pressure to sort of like secure a permanent ceasefire, with protests in Tel Aviv demanding the release of approximately 50 remaining hostages in Gaza. Are you saying that we don't have an end to this war in sight, despite the negotiations?
I'm afraid so, because you see, Netanyahu's position is dependent on the support of the far right, the other two smaller parties. And if he were to lose them and lose power, not only would there be a loss for him personally, but he also faces all sorts of charges. And therefore, in order to keep power, he is prepared to fight on and keep the war on. And this is well known. There's nothing hidden about this analysis. The problem is that it exists. That is one of the reasons why the war will carry on. So setting aside the diametrically different ideologies of Israel and Hamas is this personal aspect about Netanyahu. However, a ceasefire will be something, but unfortunately, no long-term solution right now is visible.
Thank you so much for making out time to join us on The Rise America. Dr. Marek, International Affairs Analyst, joined us via telephone from London.